In this video, we're going to discuss amortization. In amortization, as the visual shows here, what it does is it takes your monthly payment and it breaks down how much of that payment goes toward paying down the principal on your loan and how much of your payment goes toward paying interest. So here we have, again, kind of the formal definition of amortization. So it is, technically speaking, the process of writing down the value of a loan. Practically, it's a table that details the balance of a loan and what portion of every payment goes to pay the interest and what portion goes to pay the principal, exactly as that visual on the opening screen showed you. So something that not many people know is that the portion of your monthly payment that goes toward interest is based on the loan balance every month. And the loan balance obviously is changing as you go from month to month. So what that means is that the portion of your monthly payment that goes to pay interest and also therefore that goes to pay your principal changes every single month. It's not as if it's consistently, half goes to the principal and half goes to interest. It's a constantly changing value. So here I'm going to show you how this might work for the very first payment for a loan. If you'll recall from our mortgage video, we had Maggie who mortgaged $152,000 at 7.125% interest for 20 years. And we found or calculated at the time her monthly payment to be $1,189.89. When it comes to figuring out how much of her first payment is interest, that is actually based on the simple interest formula. I is PRT. Interest is the principal times the rate times the time in years. Now in this case, the principal is the $152,000 because she hasn't made any payments on her loan yet. The interest rate is the 7.125%. And the time, because this is a monthly payment, her payment represents 1/12 of a year. When you multiply those values together, we get $902.50. So that means of her $1,189.89 payment, $902.50 goes just toward the interest on her loan. The remaining portion, not quite $300, goes toward paying down the principal on her loan. So let's see how this works in a little bit longer time frame. So the same idea is taking place here, except now we're going to figure out how much of the payment is interest, how much goes to the principal, and then what the current balance of a loan is for the first 3 payments being made. So in this case, we have a principal of $170,000 being borrowed at 7% interest for 30 years. And again, using that information, I calculated the monthly payment to be $1,177.05. So again, for the amount that goes toward interest, we're going to use interest is the principal times the rate times the time. So in this case, the principal is $170,000. The interest rate is 7%. And again, this payment represents 1/12, 1 month out of the year. Multiplying those values together, we get $991.67. That is the amount of that payment, the $1,177.05, that's going to just pay down the interest. So therefore, if we pay $1,177.05 and $991.67 goes toward the interest, the remainder, $185.38, is what actually goes toward paying down the amount you owe on your loan. So that makes the balance after your first payment on the loan $170,000 minus the $185.38 that gets applied to the principal for a new balance of $169,814.62. So that can be a little discouraging, right? You look at all that money you paid, almost $1,200, and the amount you owed the bank goes down by less than $200. When the second payment rolls around, we now have a new principal amount owed. The new principal amount is this $169,814.62. And so that is now going to become the principal in our I equals PRT formula. So we've got $169,814.62 times our 7% interest. And again, this payment is one monthly payment out of the year. So the time is still 1/12. Multiplying these values together, we get $990.59. So we owe a little less money. The current balance was a little less than $170,000. So we would expect that we owe a little less money in interest, and that's exactly the case. It's a little less. It's just about, a dollar or so less. So how much then goes to the principal? Well, we take the total amount paid in our payment. We subtract out the portion that is going to interest, and this time a whopping $186.46 is going to pay down the balance of our loan. And so in order to find the balance going into month 3, we're going to take the balance from the previous month and subtract that $186.46. And after our second month of paying for our mortgage, we owe $169,628.16. And then the process repeats itself yet again. So taking the new balance of $169,628.16 times our interest rate of 7%, and again, time of 1/12 for a 1-month payment, this time $989.50 is what goes toward the interest. Taking that monthly payment and subtracting the portion that goes to interest, we discover that $187.55 goes to pay down the balance of our loan, and then subtracting the previous month's balance and the amount going toward the principal of our loan. After 3 months, the balance on our loan is $169,440.61. So if you actually go through and figure out the monthly payments that you made, if you multiply the monthly payment by 3, it's about $3,500, give or take. Notice that the amount we've actually reduced our loan by is only about $560. So we've paid $3,500 out of pocket. We've reduced our loan by about $560. Now, the good news is that somewhere down the road, you will eventually, the amount to interest and the amount to principal will flip-flop. But you've got to get this amount of interest or the principal paid down quite a bit. So at the beginning of your loan, a much bigger portion of your loan goes toward interest than it does to principal. Some other life lessons that I can tell you about here, besides just the calculation, is if you do pay extra on your monthly payment. So let's say, for example, instead of $1,177.05, you paid $1,477.05. You paid an additional $300. That additional $300 all gets added on right here to the amount that goes towards your principal. So it would take the $185.38 that's part of your regular monthly payment, and then it would add on the extra $300, and so your balance would have reduced by $485.38. So that is one way that you can pay down your loan a little bit faster.